So hi, welcome to the masterclass on Diamond Dowsing. I'm so excited to have so many of you that have registered, and we have about 1,500 people on the call, and that will watch it live, or some of you will watch it in a recording. So I'm super excited that you want to know more about what dowsing is. So that was a word that was not known to me till I was about 25 years old. And that is when I started really opening up to understanding the magnetic field and what your home and the magnetic field of your home can really influence your health. So for me, it started with a not such a great experience in my life. It's when my father passed on, and I was always very visible. I could always see visible the energies of people's aura field and chakras and the environment. And I always saw that when my father slept, that he was sleeping in a darker energy. It was not just his aura field. It was like even if he was not there, I could actually see that there was a darker energy in that corner of the bedroom. And so for me, it was like, there's something wrong. And I thought at that time it was because the television was under where he slept and the antenna was above him, right? And so I kind of understood that frequencies, that this could influence him, but that was kind of all that I really got. So when my father then, when I was 25, he had stomach and liver cancer. And he was still a young man. He was 68 years old. I was 25. So that was too young to lose my father. And he decided to not go to the hospital and to go in hospice, and so to be taken care of at the home. So my mother and me were the first taking care of my father with some nurses, but we were there day and night. And one of the things was he wanted everybody that came to visit, or that was taking care of him, to sit next to him. And I just couldn't stand sitting next to him. It was just like, it made me so nervous and I felt so drained. And I would always take the chair and sit towards the end of his bed, a little bit to the side. And he always would say, you know, why don't you come close? And say, I can't. There is something wrong with the space that you are in. And so the moment he passed on, he actually didn't even pass on that side of the bed. I had dreams like a year before that he would actually roll over at the last moment of his life, and he would go to another dimension on the side of my mother's bed. And for a whole year I had these dreams, and I thought it was so weird. But ultimately that's what he did. He rolled over the last 2 nights, and he died on my mother's side of the bed. So that was a terrible situation, of course. But within a year, my mother started having also tremendous um, pain in her stomach. And the doctor was saying, well, it could, if we don't treat it well, it could lead to the same situation as your father. And it started being really strange for me, because even if my father passed on, I could still see that darkness in the area where my mother was not sleeping, but it was coming in from that side. And I started asking the universe, God, show me, bring to me any help I can to understand what is really going on. So I first met, I met my first dowser. So dowsing is a technique where people can check out how is the energy field of your house. And so this lady came in, and she used at that time a pendulum. And she said, oh, there's a really bad energy in the corner of this bedroom. And it literally is that there is underground water. And that underground water is coming in and hits the person that sleeps on the right side of the bed, where my father was not anymore. It would hit him or her in the stomach, in the liver and the stomach. And this line goes over the bed. So anyone who sleeps here would have problems with the stomach and the liver. And the person that sleeps on the right side of the bed, they have a line going over their full body. It crosses where the stomach is. So there must be tremendous stress in the stomach, and that could even lead to cancer. For me, that was like, wow, this is exactly what happened. So I started doing some research, and I found out that the previous owner of the house also had stomach cancer. The bed of the owner was in the same position. The man slept on that side of the bed, but the owner of that time, he sold it to us, and he actually recovered from the stomach cancer and lived another 10 years. So for me, that was like, wow, is that such an influence? And then I started understanding that I didn't want to sit there, because if I want to sit there, we literally, um, I would totally be in that bad spot. I would be hit by that negative vibration. So all this, why was it the stomach and the liver and not any other organ? Well, these were the first that were really connected in with that negative stream of energy. And so, and perhaps it was also on other levels the weakest point of him. My father did not live a very healthy lifestyle. He was not eating well. He had a lot of emotional issues. He was a survivor of the World War II and from torture in the camps in Nazi Germany. So there was a lot of things, but I still found it was too young for him to pass on. So that was the first time. And I remember I was like, okay, this is so interesting. I want to know everything about dowsing. And I was asking this lady, I would love to know what it is and can I learn this? Teach me how to do this. And she said to me, but Marie, you need to have a gift. You need to have passed this information down from your grandfather or grandmother or mother or father. And, I didn't have that. So I started researching what was all this information, what was dowsing. And I started researching also the history of it. And I started seeing and understanding that in all the ancient traditions, dowsing was part of I would say, the culture of, of society. So I started understanding and finding that even at that moment, when I was living in Belgium, that there were many dowsers and that the farmers would actually reach out to the dowsers if there was any problem with their farm, any problem with their crops, any problem with their animals. So before they would bring in anyone to check other things, they would always bring in the dowsers. I found out there were many dowsers in Belgium. And I started understanding and started talking to them that that knowledge was passed on to generations after generations. And that in the time of the Roman time, the Greek time, the Middle Ages, that every village, every city had their own dowser. So somebody that could find out where were very strong energy points and where there were weak points or points that you could become ill and sick on it. And they would actually build town centers, cathedrals, churches. They would actually build even villages around positive points. Perhaps you have heard already from ley lines. So ley lines are like meridians, it's very strong energy lines in the magnetic field of the earth. And so in the ancient times, people would then on this crossing of these positive energies, they would then build churches, temples, cathedrals, stone circles, menhirs. So if you think about, all of you know Stonehenge, right? So the famous rock circle in the southwest of London, that this is actually placed on the crossing of 4 ley lines. So when people go there, they feel energized. But also many in Europe, cathedrals and churches are built on the crossing of positive lines, of positive energy flow. And so they would build then for sure the tower or the altar on such a positive energy, because they understood that when you're there and you're sitting there or you're praying there, that your energy would go up. So there was this vibration that changed. Now later on, a lot of this information was lost, and we see that, you know, people would not go to dowsers anymore to before they would build or expand a city, or they would build a place. So they kind of forgot about that information. And so in Belgium, for example, where I'm from, all the major city centers where there's a beautiful marketplace would always be on a positive crossing of good energy, and they would try to avoid underground water. And that is where then they would have the markets, and where the markets were, there were a lot of people coming, and they always felt very abundant. And the most wealthy people would always live around the center. And the more people would be away from that very positive energy, there would be the more poor people that would live, the workers of the city, and they would already live more towards what we call the farmland or the swamp area, sometimes around a city. And so these people were not having such a long life, because they were actually living in more unhealthy areas of the place of the city. And later on, what happened is they started expanding the cities beyond the circle that was still positive. And we see that more and more people go and were building in Belgium, for example, on places where there was swampland, where there was not such a positive energy and a lot of underground water. So for me, that was like, wow, this is so amazing. This information is known by the Druids. It's known by the people in Egypt, the priests. It is known by the shamans. And I started understanding that in all the ancient traditions, this information was known. I do believe that some of these ancient, I would say, shamans or dowsers, that first of all, they could see the energy, like I could see the energy, that they could see there was a change in the aura fields. And they would say, don't go there because it doesn't look positive. It doesn't look good energy. And that when their energy was good, there was light. There was like, even I could smell as a child already a difference in the air. When there was a place that was positive, there was like, I would call it like mountain air. It was a freshness. And there were areas that were not positive, and I tried to avoid it, and it smelled really damp and it smelled really heavy. I couldn't breathe there so well. So perhaps each one of you have already experienced that, even in your own house, your own place, that you go to a certain area and you're like, I don't like to be there that much. Yeah, I'm trying to avoid that area. You don't always know why, but it's like part of your body and your instinct is reacting and saying, this doesn't feel so good. It doesn't smell so good. Everyone can always know, like, this area doesn't smell so good. And I'm not talking about the bathroom, right? It's just sometimes we come in an area like, oh, it always has a certain smell. And when we then douse for that, we always find there the most underground water. So we all have these feelings. We come to certain places and we're like, oh, we love it here. It feels so light, it feels so good. And you keep hanging out there. It's just like, when you're sitting there, you have great conversations. There is a lot of love and laughter. There's joy in that room. And there are other areas when you're sitting there or you're sleeping there, you get more depressed, you have more health issues. So the energy is draining. And so you know that, and you try to avoid that area. So that's what my father did. My father always tried to avoid going to sleep. And that's one of the first symptoms. When there's not good energy in your bedroom, people try to avoid to go to sleep because instinctively their body feels it's not a healthy place. It's what I call a sick making place. And so my father tried to avoid it. So he would stay up as late as possible. I mean, television's programs at the time went to like 1 o'clock. So he would stay in the living room and then he would fall asleep there. And around 3, 4 o'clock, he would come to his bed, right? But my mom went out at 7 in the morning. And at 7 o'clock, when I went to see my father, he had already taken the place of my mother. So his body literally tried to avoid sleeping there. Of course, the issues that he had were, were not just by where he was sleeping. It was also his lifestyle and the way he was thinking and feeling. But I always imagine if he would not have slept on that place, if I would have been able to cure it, that perhaps I would have had him 30 years longer, like my mother lived 30 years later. So, but he went on. And so when I started understanding this dowsing, I started studying with dowsers. And each I'm asking, tell me how to do this. They all said the same thing. You need to have a gift, Marie. So with all the knowledge that I connected with and all the history and seeing how things were, I just never could able to dowse. And they actually took me with them because when they cured something, I could see if the cures worked because I could see the change in the aura field. So I walked with the dowsers for a long time, each time saying, yep, the cure is right because the energy has shifted. So I could see it, but I believed them. I think they were somehow afraid that I would take over their work or their passion. And so fast forward, I got married and I had a little boy of, at that time, 14 and a boy of 5. And since I moved into that house, and there was a house that was really built on old farmland, and there was a lot of underground water there, and a lot of people in that community became sick. There was a lot of cancer. There were a lot of miscarriages. There was a lot of problems with depression. And I knew that from the neighbors, but I never really linked it with the place where we lived. Yeah, I already knew feng shui at that time. I already had studied in Asia on feng shui, and I knew that the feng shui masters in China, they would use 2 tools. They would use the compass, and they would use what we would call the dowsing sticks. And that they would always look for the places based on good feng shui and something that they call dragon lines. And dragon lines are what the Druids in the UK and Europe would call ley lines. So I knew that knowledge was even in China. But, as I was doing good feng shui, I started having a lot of issues myself. And one of them, it was very strange, but I always got an infected big toe. So since I moved into that bedroom, my toe would infect and would swell up. And they even, the doctor said, we have to cut the nerve of your big toe, and because it infects constantly. So I was really ready to go and do that because it was just really bothering me. I could not get in a normal shoe. The second thing was that my husband got the weirdest dreams. Like he got like nightmares after nightmare. And he's not somebody who drinks at all. So we did not know where it was coming from. And then my son, he was always, he was 5 years old. And till we moved in that bedroom, he was clean at night. Yeah, he was uh, really able to go on time to the toilet. But since he moved in there, he had what we call night problems, right? He was peeing all the time in his bed. And we were like, where's that coming from? It never happened till we were in there. So it's not that something continued till he was 5, it just suddenly started happening. So I brought in a dowser and I said, you need to check my house. And so I found, first of all, that there was this underground water, and we call that geopathic stress. Geopathic stress means geo, it means the earth. Pathos means sickness. So there's like underground sickness and um, scars, energetic, disturbing scars in the magnetic field, and it gives the body stress. So one of them was going straight over my toe, that always infected. Another one was hitting my husband's head. And the third one was going over the bladder of my son. So this dowser had cures. So it was not like the first one, the first woman that I met, she said we had to change the bed. No, this one said there are some cures for this. So we practiced that. And what happened was, from one night to the other, my son stopped having bed problems. The bedwetting was done. And like overnight. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. My husband stopped having bad dreams. Yeah. My toe within a week started, I would say, deflating because it was really, really big. And I never had to be operated. And I thought, like, what is going on? So I started really walking with this dowser again, understanding what this all was. And he was very specialized in the underground water. So when you are sleeping on underground, on top of underground water, and it doesn't have to be the first floor, it can be even in an apartment building. And interesting enough is each level that you are sleeping on, it doubles the negative effect. So if you're sleeping on the penthouse or the top of an apartment, the effect is worse than on the ground floor. Yeah, because it actually magnifies the energy all the time. So underground water can literally be, a water pipe. Yeah, it can be a sewer, right? It can be also a creek, a river. It can be even an aqua field. Yeah, if you're close to a like a lake, we always see the water that is visible, but there's always water under the ground that we don't even see. So that was actually for me like a big aha moment. And I started understanding that if I was sleeping on it, that the frequencies of the water would be dehydrating. So when you sleep on water, you dehydrate your body. It's literally water pulls water. You're dehydrating the energy. And so when you're dehydrating the energy, then it's like the cells are weaker. Your immune system becomes weaker. I also saw that, and later on we tested that, I always saw a difference in the brain waves of people. And so when people sleep on geopathic stress zones, literally we see that the brain waves will go into beta brain waves. So some people will live in what I call a beta house. It's a house where anyone that lives there, anyone that is coming to visit you, the brainwave go into beta. And when we're in beta, we're disconcentrated. It's harder to clean up. You create much more clutter. It's harder to be in harmony in conversations. It's harder to attract money. Your health, your immune system goes down. So you have to work harder to get in a good immune system. You feel all the time you need to hydrate yourself. You feel all the time you need to get extra supplements. Also, what people feel when you are in a house that has that underground water is that literally they try to avoid being in that house. Specifically the areas where the water is there. Like with my father, it was the bedroom, right? And literally then later on, I understood what was going on the first floor, because he was sleeping on the second floor. But the first floor, we had the living room. And where the crossing was, where the stomach and the liver was, and sometimes these lines can be quite wide. It depends how much water there is. I would say they can be from a meter, like 3 feet, till like 5, 10, and even wider. Sometimes a whole house is under one, is above one current of water. So then I start looking at myself. So what happened is on the first floor in the living room, on that line was my piano. And I was studying quite intensely piano, 2 hours a day. And there were moments I just couldn't stand sitting there. And I loved playing piano. And then I would go to the conservatoire and try to practice there for 2 hours because I became so nervous and I could see that line. And I asked my father and mother so many times, can I please put the piano on the other side? I said, no, it doesn't work. It doesn't look good. So I had to stay practicing on that. And I can tell you how many times, I cannot tell how many times I took my books, my music books, and slammed them against the piano, against the wall, because I was so nervous and so upset because I made so many mistakes. Because when you're in beta, you actually make more mistakes. You're not so concentrated. It was so hard to focus, but hey, I got it done. I got to the highest prize I could go in the conservatoire. So you can overcome it with a lot of willpower, but you know, you don't have to overcome it with willpower if the energy is calm and peaceful. So we ultimately, my mom and I moved out of that house, because I felt like I couldn't cure it at that time. I was no place to put my mom's bed in another area. So we actually went to look for a place where people turned at least 90 years old. So we actually went to a place and we found a home that both people had turned 90 without any health issues. And so my mom also turned 95, right? So living in that house. So I knew that was a good house. And the moment I walked in that house, the air was so pure, the energy was so beautiful, and I felt so much joy. And I never felt joy in that old house. There was a lot of conflicts, a lot of arguments between my parents and my siblings. So there was just a lot of tension in that area. So I knew that was what we call a beta house. It was a beautiful house, but it was a beta house. And we moved in what we call an alpha house, where there was not such a negative energy, because not every house has such a negative vibration. Yeah. So it depends where it is built. So then I started understanding that I needed really to learn all this information. But again, nobody was teaching me this. Nobody wanted to teach me this information. And then I moved to America. And the first house that I had there, I'm telling you the story because perhaps it will become clear for yourself. I wanted to get pregnant and I got several miscarriages in that house. So I flew a dowser in from Belgium to look at the house. And he said, Marie, there is many stress lines over your womb and you cannot become pregnant. So it's one of the things that we have seen, that when women want to become pregnant, when there's a stress line going over their womb, that it's very hard to keep the baby. Yeah, there's so much stress there that the energy releases. So he cured it, and thanks to that, I have my little daughter who is almost 17 years old right now. So that was like, okay, great. And then I moved to Santa Barbara. And I moved into a house, and the house was really nice, wonderful energy. But then something happened. literally there was a flooding, and the river changed, the bedding of the river changed after a huge flooding, and water started going under the house. And I came back from a trip and I became very sick. For like 4 months, I had pneumonia. I had one flu after another. It was so bad. And I wanted to bring a Belgian dowser in, but I had run out of money. My savings were gone because I was sick for 4 months. And I was just starting in America. And so I started praying to the universe and said, there must be someone, at least one person in America that know how to douse, that can tell me how to do this. And then I found out through clients of mine of one dowser that was teaching this information. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Literally, they had to bring me with the car, me laying down because I was so sick, to go to a seminar to learn about this. And so when I was learning this, I was like, my God, this is so easy. That was the first time I got my dowsing rods in my hands. And when you look at the dowsing rod, you will see there is a handle that moves like this. And then there is this length that is in there, right? So it was the first time I was using and putting them in my hands. I was like, oh my God, that is the most amazing thing. And I learned from him how to ask the questions. And when I asked the question and I said, you know, how is the energy here? It opened up, right? So I'm asking now, how is the energy here? It opens up. It means, yes, it's good energy, right? So I'm, for example, thinking I see this wonderful lady, Takayo. Hi, Takayo. Yes, I'm going to douse you for a moment. So I'm going to put my intention on her and say, is Takayo a woman? It opens up. Yes, you are a woman, right? If I ask if she's a man, it doesn't open up. Yeah. So it was like, wow, this is really interesting. It moves. And I learned there how to create, how to find the energy of the house. So I went back to my house. And this man also had created wonderful cures, because the cures we had in Belgium were very, very expensive. And every 6 months, the dowser had to go back to check if the cures were in the right place. And this American dowser from Colorado, Master Slim, I call him, but he already passed on. Thank you for bringing this information through. He had what he call cures. These are copper cures. And he gave me some and said, you need to place them, go home and find out where the underground water was. And we found out the whole house, especially my bedroom, was all underground water. I put the sticks in. So I put the sticks in the house. I call this acupuncture sticks, right? And I put them in, and for the first time in 4 months, I could sleep. And within a week, I felt so much better. Another thing that happened was my dog was all the time barking since we moved in that house. And suddenly he was the calmest dog ever. Because you will see, when there's negative energy, dogs cannot thrive there. They will become very restless. They will try to leave the space. They would bark. They will be quicker upset. And so after it's doused, it is so calm and they feel so much better. Same with children. Children and animals are very sensitive to this. Plants are very sensitive to that. I could not grow any plants in that house. After I doused it, my plants started really blooming. Now, interesting enough is when cats are in the house, cats love negative energy. It's not that they're negative animals, but they love healing the place. So they will go to these areas where there's negative energy. They pull that negative energy into their, I would say, fur. And then they would go out and fluff themselves out and lick themselves off. So they actually try to heal this negative energy. So we have a saying, where the cat sleeps, don't sleep. Where the dog sleep, you can sleep. Because the dogs are always looking for positive places. So if you have a dog or cat, try to see where that is. Yeah. So one of the things that you will also see that other animals react to if there's geopathic stress zones. For example, ants, mosquitoes. Both of these animals love the stress because it means that out of the earth there is water emanating. So there's like water vibration coming out of the earth, and the ants love to walk on the water because when they are on the water, they feel they have more energy. So the same with mosquitoes, where there's a lot of underground water, that is where the mosquitoes will hang out because they are thriving on the water vibration that is in that space. So guess where all the mosquitoes were always in the house of my parents. And who was always bitten by the mosquito? My father, right? It was always hanging out just out of the window where that energy was coming in. And also on the first level, that's where we always had ants. Every year we knew ants would come in there. So some plants will totally thrive on negative energy. And for example, pine trees and holly trees and cactus, they will actually thrive on negative vibration. So where there's a lot of water energy, they will thrive. But like fruit trees, other flower bushes, they will actually die where there's too much water. Yeah. So literally, I can come in a house, come in a garden, and I can point out to you where the stress zones are, even in your garden, because that will be where the tree is not blossoming, where there will be I would say a hole in the hedge. Yeah. And even on your house, where you will have cracks in the ground or cracks in the wall, this is because of the water pressure that is under your house. Now, geopathic stress is not just water. It can also be fault lines. So fault lines, for example, in California, when people would sleep on areas where there is a moving of the water and it left a scar above the ground or even under the ground, because these stress zones can be very deep. You don't even have to see them. But when there's a crack, it shows already there's a pressure. Yeah. So I always say to people, if we would sleep on that, if even the ground, the soil, the walls are cracking, don't be surprised that even our body will crack. Of course, not after a few weeks sleeping on it. But if you sleep years and years on it, like my father slept 20 years on it, yeah? And so the more sensitive you are, the faster you will feel that negative vibration. So after I learned this from Master Slim, I actually got totally understood all the information that came together from all these years walking with the masters. And 6 weeks later, I started teaching my first Diamond Dowsing class. And I remember that was in San Francisco, and there were 30 people in the room. And they all learned how to dowse, and they all learned how to work with the dowsing sticks. Yeah. And there is, of course, an alchemy behind it, meaning the length of the copper rods, the length and the activation of the rods will actually create a cure for stopping that negative vibration coming into your house. So I remember that first time I was teaching this, there was this woman and she had shoulder pain on her left shoulder for 15 years. She had gone to so many doctors. She had gone to so many chiropractors, put, I don't know, for thousands of dollars, boom, and all kinds of things on her shoulder. And I checked on her body and I said, there is a stress line that is coming over your shoulders, but it comes from your left shoulder. So it's like comes in and goes there. And said, you even have problems here. And she said, yes, I have a lot of thyroid problems. And I said, again, this is not the only reason, right, why you have these problems. There can be genetic issues, it can be lifestyle issues, it can be diet issues. But when the house is not magnetically in harmony, the areas where the stress zones are will be enforced and amplified the problem there. So she went home, looked for where the dowsing was, the stress zone was. She put the cure up, and the cure is always placed on the ground. So think about acupuncture. When something is blocked, you put a little needle or you do some acupressure. But think about this is a needle, an acupuncture needle for your house. And so she put the needle out, and the next morning she came with a big smile. She said, it's the first time I woke up without pain in my shoulders. And from that moment on, the pain was gone, because you have to think, when that stress zone comes in, it pushes every night and it dehydrates every night. And so people feel cramps, they feel pain. And when the house is doused, the energy is totally shifted. So that was the first time I was teaching in person the dowsing. And it takes 2 days at that time to know this information. So it was really interesting, because I had this amazing testimonials coming in. I remember this woman, she went home, went to her grandson. Her grandson was having nightmare after nightmare, was having anger tantrums. Every night he had to go to sleep because that child was telling his parents, this is a bad place. But he was 2 years old. He couldn't express what it felt. So she doused the place. The child, from the day, it works very, very fast. Within 24 hours, the next night, the child was calm, went to sleep, and was just totally a different child. And they already had started thinking about giving the child medication. And after that, everything changed. It is one of the most magical tools I've ever experienced. And I learned a lot. And I learned from a lot of wonderful masters. But this was, for me, the wow experience. And then I made a decision. I said, in the ancient times, if every village had a dowser, what if every family has a dowser? Yeah. If one person in the family knows how to do this, how many people can they help? And so I started bringing this forward, and right now already more than 200,000 people worldwide have studied this with me. It's one of my major classes, and I'm very happy about that. And the results have been amazing. So for you, it's really interesting to look at your house. And I want you to pay attention to what your house feels like, right? And what we do most of the time, we kind of deny it, like, yeah, I don't feel so well. I don't sleep so well. Yeah, I have a hard time falling asleep. Or in the morning, I feel like, okay, it's hard to wake up. There's a reason for it. It's possible your energetic field of your house is too weak to stimulate and to make you feel better. And one of the bonuses is to keep looking radiant, because your energy is so wonderful. Your whole body is shifting because you feel more energy and you have more immune system. And I have seen people looking for solutions and finding more healing methodologies, more healing, more relaxation. I've seen businesses change because of that. I remember going to one of my first businesses I've ever dowsed was in Brussels. And I come into the shop, and it was a fashion shop with clothing. And I said to the lady, in that corner over there, nobody buys anything there. And she said, you're right. We tried everything. We put the most expensive stuff. We put the most cheap stuff. We put like the whole year discount stuff. People avoid that corner. And I said, because there's so much stress that when people go to that area, they feel in their body like, ooh, this is not good. It doesn't feel great. So we totally doused the area. And literally, she showed with IGTV, with the cameras, the 2 days before, literally people would go in that direction. Even if it was the most beautiful clothing, people literally would bend their journey in the shop and they would leave it. the day after we had cured it, and this is literally curing with dowsing sticks, very easy way, we could see right away people would come in and right away go to that direction. Yeah. And they would buy. And she said, it's amazing. We could see the shift literally on camera. I said, because people feel it. People have this instinctive energy. I call it the animal part of ourself, our instinct, that knows exactly, like a dog, yeah, where is good energy and where is less good energy. And we follow that. So you all have, I'm sure, a space in your house where you feel the energy is not so good, or you don't sleep so good, or perhaps your partner has a hard time, or your kids have nightmares all the time. So I gave you so much explanation how you can really see what is going on. So what I have prepared for you is I created, instead of doing in person, because right now it's not so easy to teach something in person anymore, I created an online video program. And the online video program teaches you in 6 to 9 hours. It teaches you how to, first of all, use your dowsing rods. Now, it's not just by taking them in your hands that it will start moving. There is a certain way to work with your brain and to ask the questions so that your dowsing rods will open. So for example, if I'm thinking about energy and I'm thinking about something positive, it starts swinging clockwise. Yeah. So the more I think about something positive, I'm thinking about my kids now, and it goes faster and faster. Yeah. So I'm holding my hand still, and this moves separately. But when I think about something negative, it goes counterclockwise. And think now about a war zone, and it goes faster and faster. So this way you can actually measure the energy, and you can find out where is the stress zone coming into my house and where do I have to place the cures. Of course, it's not only geopathic stress zone. There are other stress zones that we are talking about in this online video program that is called the Diamond Dowsing Basic. And so there's also interference zones of electricity. Yeah, because right now we are living in an electronic world around us. We have Wi-Fi, we have cell phone towers, and they all are emanating a frequency. And so when you are sleeping on these frequencies, then literally you get disturbing dreams, or you start feeling, nauseous, or you start feeling you're drained. So you also need to change this. And so we have cures for this. We also are looking for what we call positive or negative vortexes. So a positive vortex is like what I shared about Stonehenge, right? It's like a cathedral. We have that also in the USA, for example, the Capitol Hill, the Washington Monument. They are all placed on positive ley lines, on the crossing of positive ley lines. So the Freemasons knew this information in the 1800s and the 1900s too. So this information has always kept very sacred. They told you, or they told me, you don't have the gift, and only a few people would know it. And I really felt this is something that everybody needs to know. It's so easy to learn, and you can learn it through the video program, and then getting your dowsing rods and getting your first package of cures. So we created this online program to make sure that you can get to cure the geopathic stress zones, all the interference zones of electricity, to enhance where the positive vortexes are, because you can have a positive vortex. You can also have a negative vortex. A negative vortex is where the energy is completely draining. And so you can also cure this. So it is actually a whole program where you can learn at home how to do this. Plus, once you know it, you can learn this you can share this over and over again to every place you're moving, to your family, to your friends. So this is something I have seen right now. We have thousands and thousands of houses that are cured. And we have seen an amazing shift, not just in the health of people, but also how they see life. Because I'm telling you, sometimes people want to change, right? Perhaps you're on the spiritual journey and you want your partner and your children to change and to transform. But if they're sleeping on a zone that is negative for them, it's like their brain cannot even open. Their chakras cannot work very well. And so they cannot even open themselves to spiritual growth. I have seen so many times that a woman was learning this and then she put the sticks out. And I remember this one man, he said, "What a stupid stick you put in my bedroom," right? It looks like a stupid stick, right? She said, "Oh, just let me do." And she did it there. And she said, "I saw the greatest transformation. My husband found joy again. He changed his job. He felt like he was finally free again from all the heaviness that was on him where he was sleeping." Yeah. So the first thing you always do is trying to cure your bedroom, because that is where you sleep the most and where your body is the most vulnerable. You will then, of course, where you work, right? You will attract much more abundance. You will attract much more energy, much more clients, because you raise the vibration of the space where you work. So I've seen this with entrepreneurs, with businesses. I'm just going to tell you a very quick story. You all know me from the movie The Secret, right? So where the place was that they did the filming of The Secret was actually a place I dowsed. The first, when I came in, the energy was quite dark. And they had all the time problems with their machines, with their cameras, because when you have a computer, when you have machinery on places that have stress, they break faster. It's not just human beings, but also machines start having issues. So I asked them, and Rhonda Byrne said, "Well, you know, the interviews are not going so well. You know, it's like we're not getting very inspired answers." And I said, "Let me douse." So I doused the place. And from that moment on, she said, the interview was nailed. Every interview was so good, was so amazing, because we changed the vibration. Yeah. And when you do that, the energy shifts. So the online video program that I have ready for you, if you're when you're interested to learn this, and you can do this at home, it's really amazing to learn this. You can do it in your own space and own time. It's on the online library when you purchase this. And so you will first learn it, and then you, of course, will still need to get your dowsing rods. Yeah, perhaps some of you do have them. So that's why we do not put it in the course. And then you also need to get your dowsing cures. Now, a package of dowsing cures, we kept the prices so democratic, reasonable, so that as much homes in the world can be dowsed. So for one house, for having cures is about $100. So it's not an expensive cure, because I remember my first dowser per cure, it costed $100. So think about 30 times 100, you get to $3,000. So we make sure that all the things you have are very reasonable in price, because we really have the aim to have thousands and thousands of people dowsing. The good thing with the dowsing cures is that if you move, right, you can take the cures with you and you can reuse them. Yeah. So that's the wonderful thing of this. Yeah. So somebody's sharing, I was introduced to the basic course because I was living on sick land. Since I cured the land and home, things have been going very well. Some people are not always getting what I do, right? So yeah, dowsing is an ancient tradition, right? I call it ancient wisdom, but using a modern tools, right? So this is information that I know for some religions, they sometimes think a little bit strange about this, right? But I'm telling you, I have dowsed personally an archbishop, a rabbi, you know, a head of a mosque. So it's in every traditions. They are very open to that. Yeah. But it's an old system. Yeah, it's a system that was hidden and that was only used by the people that were in power. And so now it's time to share this. It's an old secret. Yes. So we have a very special deal that I want to share with you. So normally the price is $298 for the online course. Now the special price is, I think, till September 6th is $198. Plus I'm also giving a Q&A after in a month about this course so that you can ask all the questions. You will also be connected in with a private Facebook group so you can ask questions to our team about this so that you will have all the support to do this. Now, I know some of you have done dowsing already and are like ready to go to the next level. We're starting a new program and it's called the Diamond Dowsing Practitioners Program because a lot of people are coaches or healers, are working with energy or doing feng shui or any kind of energy modality. So we have created a whole structure for diamond dowsing practitioners so you can start doing this professionally. This is one of the tools that people are always looking for, how to cure their house, how to feel better. And now especially when you are in a time and space where a house is more important than ever, just knowing that for yourself, you have to stay perhaps in lockdown, perhaps you have, you cannot travel that much, perhaps you have to work at home. Your home has to be the highest level possible. So the Diamond Dowsing basic program is a wonderful tool. Without having me in your house, you can do it yourself. So you will receive an email with also the video of this with the recording so you can listen again to it, and you will have the proposal if you want to have this video program. So there is the video program with several videos, very hands-on, and also an ebook so that you can see and know exactly what you need to learn. And if you're interested in to learn more how to become a diamond dowsing practitioner, what do you get in that? You also learn how to clear the energy of your house. You also will be able to douse from a distance because you actually can learn how to douse without being in a house. Yeah. So on a floor plan, let's say you're buying a land or you're buying a property, you learn then as a practitioner how to douse on a floor plan from a distance. And so you can literally place the cures, as I was sharing, there are some questions about that. These are cures that you can put under a carpet, you can put even on the ledge. It's amazing. This is one of the most amazing tools I've ever experienced. And then you will learn in the practitioner training, if you want to go to the next step, you actually will be able to like I said, douse from a distance, but then you will learn all the extra things that you can do with the dowsing rods. So I know there are some questions here, and I'm going to answer a few of them. Somebody said, can you put the sticks in a wrong way? Well, you will always, when you have placed the sticks, you will always check. And you always check with your dowsing rods. So before, you will always see first where they have to be placed, and you will detect the zones. When you place the cures, the zones disappear. And when you then walk again over the space, you will see the dowsing rods will not open up anymore because you have placed them right. So that's a good thing. You can always check exactly what you need to do. So the practitioner course, you will get the email with, and there's two possibilities. So there is a one-time payment where you then get 30% discount, and you can have it as in installments of 4 times so that you can do it over the course of 4 times. In the practitioner training, I have monthly live calls with you. So you will have online programs that you look in the online library. There will be a live course on space clearing, a new course I'm launching on diamond space clearing. And you also will have live calls so you can ask all the questions. So there will be a program for 4 months that you will work with me. Yeah. And on top of it, if you're practitioner training, if you take that training, you will get a discount of 10% on all the tools, not just the rods, but also on the energy rings where we're going to talk about. Yeah. So all this information will be available for you in the email. So watch out for the email coming out to you in the coming days. Yeah. And so one of the things that I'm just going to share the link right now if you want to already check this right now. So let me copy this right now for you. So it is marydiamond.com. Of course, you can go to that website. And for everyone that's in the room, in the meeting, here is the link. So for both the Dowsing Basic, if you want to start learning this, right? This is a very unique proposal we're giving that is only till September 6th, so that we have everybody with us in the live calls, right? So when you do Diamond Dowsing Basic, you will have together with me a basic call. You can all ask all the questions. If you continue the practitioner training, you will with me in the live call. So we all together can go into that direction, yeah? So somebody shared, I had it dowsed, you know, somebody helped her to do that from a diamond dowser, and the energy is night and day. So she said, I'm 100% sold. I have seen also people that are in the real estate industry that they have hard time to let go of a property. You douse a property, it goes so much faster off the market because people feel the energy is so wonderful, yeah? So indeed, you need to first have the course, right? And the rods and the cures are separate. Why do I do that? Because there are some people that have rods already. And so for the course, the basic course is $198. The dowsing rods, I think they're about $55 or $60. I don't know the exact price now, but around that time. And the cures are, I think, $90. Yeah. So it's like an extra $150 plus shipping and handling that is sent to you. Right. So we do it separately because some people sometimes want to have more cures. They want to, for example, start working with the cures of their for the houses for their families. So they want to buy more cures. So we keep that separately because it's easier for us, and also because it's shipping and handling, and we cannot do one price because I have clients and students all over the world. So when we ship something in the USA, it's a different price, of course, than when we ship in Europe, right? But people that are from Europe, we have dowsing cures that we ship from Europe itself. They don't have to come from America. So that's a good thing to know. We have 2 distribution centers, both in America, both in Europe. And so this is kind of something I wanted to share with you. I'm super excited that I'm going to bring a lot of you together on this journey to really change your home, because the COVID-19 is not past, right? Unfortunately. And it looks like, you know, in the coming months, we still have some waves of energy that are coming in. And so our home needs to be precious. Our home needs to be an energy that everybody feels good in. And if you have been resonating with the stories I just told you, then I know that you need it. If you feel like you have a hard time to fall asleep, to wake up early in the morning, when you have a hard time to have a harmony, when it's hard to work where you're sitting. So all these things really relate with what is going on in your house. As a feng shui master, I love feng shui, but knowing feng shui and practice this needs a lot of studying. and a lot of information. There's some basic tools that some of you have done with the energy number and the energy report, but to really know and to do something to help others with feng shui, it takes a lot of study. This is the beauty of diamond dowsing. Once you know it, you can help right away others. You can help your family, you can help your children, and you know it for the rest of your life. So literally, when I travel, I have my rods with me. I have my package of cures. This is a package of cures. Yeah. And you see there are all different colors. And depending on the cures, on the different zones, we have different colors. These are programmed cures. So it's not just that you are cutting, it's not like cutting copper, right? There's a program, the length of the cure has a certain meaning, holds the intention. So this is like programmed energy. And so literally this is how I travel. I take this with me. I go to hotels or I go to a place where I'm on a holiday. I douse it. I put my sticks. When I'm done, I take my sticks and take them with them. Because once they're programmed forever. Yeah, that's the beauty of it. So that is why for one house, you need just this package of cures. Yeah. And if you move, you take the cures and take them with you and you can reuse them. So it's a very simple way to continue having the greatest energy in your house. Yeah. So when people are doing the diamond dowsing basic and they are not sure about if it's correctly done, we do have a group of diamond dowsing certified consultants that for a very reasonable price, you can then check in with them to check out if your house is perfectly doused. So there is the possibility if you want to work with our dowsers that are certified and trained by me. If you do the diamond dowsing practitioner training and you want to continue, we have in the package, we have a small consultation with a diamond dowser that is certified by me to check your floor plan, to make sure that your floor plan is correct. Yeah, so that is part of the diamond dowsing practitioners training, because I know sometimes we feel unsure, but I'm telling you, you will see the difference. You will feel the difference when it's well placed, because people start feeling differently right away. How fast does it work? Literally within 24 hours. I have seen people feel the change literally within a few minutes. I was telling about the smell. I remember this one lady and she didn't believe at all in it. And so she had this entrance and it was smelling always very badly. So I said to her, there is this underground stewing water. And so let me put the cures in. I put the cures in and within 3 minutes, the smell was gone and the smell never returned. Yeah. So you definitely, when you put the sticks in, you will tape them, of course. If you can put them under your carpet, you can do that. Sometimes people, before they are putting floor in, before you build, for example, a house, I ask them then to put the cures in before they put the floor in so that they are there. But otherwise, you just can put literally a tape over it. And I always suggest, especially when you have children, and you put the tape over it, it still works. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was like a musty smell. Somebody's asking about something. It was a musty smell. And so, because it means that there's underground water. So the smell, and it immediately shifts. People feel like the air is becoming so pure when you are in a doused place. Yeah. You can put it under a tile, no problem whatsoever. Yeah. So it's really interesting. It works always. But the only thing is you cannot put it against the ceiling, right? It needs to be as low as possible because it's where it has to be under where you sleep, under where you walk, under where you sit. So I hope this was a very eye-opening free masterclass. So I want you to already start looking in your house, like where do you feel less good, where you feel like the energy is low, where you try to avoid, and even it can be in a sofa, right? That everybody that comes in is like, oh, everybody goes to that corner and they always avoid one sofa, right? Why is that? Because that sofa, as I'm definitely sure, is in a place that is not so positive. Yeah. So some last question. So where do you place them in the apartment? You always put them on the lowest floor, right? For the geopathic stress. And then depending on if you have a duplex or you have different floors, you will probably have to put a few others where the bedrooms are. So that is something that is all explained, of course, in the Diamond Dowsing online program. Like I said, it's normally priced $298. We'll give the price for $198, and this is till September 6th. And so thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to keep to learn something new. And if you're interested, check out your emails that are coming in. Thank you so much. Big hug to all of you. And we're just going to say goodbye to everyone. So I'm going to unmute you. You can say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Sharing.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.